We need to look at the, okay, we're on page 19. All right, Paul, the sermon is this, is that Monday night we had a presentation by the budget officer. I think you were here, were you here?
I was not here on Monday.
All right, so he presented us with a tentative budget, and we went through the budget to see, you know, where he may have made cuts or additions, and so then the Finance Committee has 20 days to review the budget document presented and give its recommendation to the full board. And so that's where we're at. We're not here to look at cuts, we're not here to look at additions, we're here to have you present the budget in your view. Okay?
Okay.
So, do you want to come up here where you can talk out there, talk back, however you want to do it.
Okay. I'll start with the A fund, but I guess the speech will be the same for all three funds in that when I prepared the department request budget for 14, I had tried everything I could to keep it as close to 13 levels as I could. Is that what I think I need to operate efficiently and best? Probably not, but it was realistic. I knew if I asked for what I actually thought I needed, we would spend a lot more time in this room than was probably necessary. So I did everything I could to keep it as close to 13's budget as I could. There were a few increases that I couldn't avoid. Based on the budget officer's recommended budget, when I look at and again I'll say all three funds, but specifically the A fund, I think Sean was realistic for the most part in the cuts that he made, and I understand pretty much when I look at it, it looks like he made good cuts in order to increase the retirement, is the way I see it. Pretty much, Sean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty much my requested and the budget officers recommended, those numbers are very close, and that's generally because he had to increase some of the benefit lines, so he made some cuts to some of the appropriation lines to balance that out. It's kind of what I saw. When I look at the A fund, I don't think any of his cuts were.
Well, the one thing he had was on 2250, and I think we discussed it Monday night with Sean, and that was on buildings and grounds equipment.
Yep.
I think that's what it was.
2255. Like I said, really, I think the cut in, really the only nominal cut in the general fund was cutting out, I think it was.
Yeah, whatever.
It was a mower, zero turn mower.
1, 2, 3, 1, was it?
You said one.
I think it was one zero turn mower.
Okay, was it for a routine change, or was it that there was a dire?
It was kind of an upgrade because the production of the zero turn mower is like twice the other mowers that we have. So one of the biggest problems we had this summer was keeping the grass mowed. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I've got a foreman, and he spent most of the summer mowing grass, just trying to keep up with the grass. And as it was, I don't think we did what we could, but I don't think they did a great job with the lawns. But
So this one then would be an upgrade for something different, or for zero?
no, I think the zero turn that we have currently, we would keep in service. It would be two of the more of a garden tractor or lawn tractor
That you would swap out for?
that this would take the place of. And it would really, like I said, it would really give you a productivity thing.
15-inch cut.
I think they're 72-inch cuts.
72-inch cut. You cut the jail too, right? I see jail.
Yeah, we do the jail, the fire training center, all the buildings in Fonda, the bike path. You know, I've got 2 people on the bike path pretty much most of the
You
summer.
have brush hogs?
We've got a flail mower. It's more of a finish mower for the bike path, but it's as opposed to a brush
And
hog.
this is the best price you can get?
Well, this is just a budgetary item. I mean, it would be something we would look at state contract first. And if it wasn't available on state contract, then we would write specifications and go out to bid. But normally, I think this, something like this would be on state contract.
What's the life expectancy of something like
Of a zero-turn mower, I think the one we have is about 8 years old, something like that, and it's got a few years left on it.
So if you don't get it, Paul, are you saying you can exist?
The-
You'd like to have it, we understand.
The lawns are still gonna get mowed, the grass will still get mowed, it's just, it's gonna take more people, more time. And there, may be other things that could be done that now won't be because
Is it typical that you have a foreman mowing the lawns?
it depends on, it's so weather dependent. I mean, most summers, like my own lawn at home, I can't wait for summer to come and it to burn up and I can go a couple weeks, top the weeds once in a while, but that didn't happen this summer.
It just seems like you could use that guy someplace else, he's more valuable.
Well, he is, but it's, if he's got people out, and like I said, the lawns were getting extremely high, and it just became a priority.
You use what you have, I understand.
Right.
When you put these numbers together, did you put them together based on the previous year's budget, or did you put it on, did you happen to look and see what your expenditures were to date, and whether the numbers that you put in are too high or too low?
I did. When I prepared my budget, I compared to, I have a printout of our current budget and, what our expenditures were to date. But I'll be honest with you, what happens a lot of times, I might have 4 or 5 projects, 4 or 5 things that we need to get done that I'm kind of hold toward later in the year just to see in case an emergency comes up. Like the boiler in the annex building, and having to repair that was not.
Like an argument. Boiler. You satisfied? Of course you're not satisfied, but I think you're going to survive.
Basically what ended up happening is we took the 2 segments that were leaking out. We took them over to Gene's Welding, he welded them. We brought them back, they leaked. We took them back out, took them back over to Gene's Welding, he welded them again. We tested them before we put them back in this time, and they still leak. So basically what we did is we put the boiler back together minus 2 segments. We just took those 2 segments out. It's an approximate 24-segment boiler, so losing 2 segments, 10%, 8%
Capacity.
in capacity.
Stop leak doesn't work.
So, actually, I'll know come January how many phone calls I get from Cheryl.
It was quite warm today when the heat came.
On
Well,
those,
they were testing it, because they just got it back together, and
just out of curiosity, that when the 2 segments that you do have, did you cut one open?
I haven't done anything with them yet. This has all just happened within the past couple of weeks. So we do still have them. I'm not going to get rid of them, and we will take a look at it and see if it's something we can maybe get them fixed and get them put back.
Well, I'm not so concerned about getting them fixed as what was inside of them to make it happen in the first place.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to find out is if you cut one of those castings in half and then look at the core of it and see if the core is just full of stuff on the bottom. There had to be a reason that it happened. You know what I mean? If it wasn't boiler shop, then it had to be some other reason it's there. Okay.
I know they're very good about the chemicals and testing the water and keeping the levels good, so I find it hard to believe that
It's usually sediment.
sediment.
All right. Yes, Bill?
Sure, I don't know, were you talking about putting together a capital budget for next year?
Well, I think that the charter is going to require the new government to have a capital program.
I think that's a suggestion, because I think the reason Paul got turned down for the boiler replacement was because of the time issue. If you were to plan it for the summer of next year, where you're not under the gun, it probably would make perfect sense, you know, if you feel that this one is gonna make it any longer.
I mean, those would have been the items that would have gone into that capital budget. We've never actually dealt with capital projects.
Not in a number of years, at least.
And even when we approved them in the late 90s, I don't think we ever did them. I mean, we might have had a capital budget, but
Right.
that's about as far as the budget went.
Yeah, they weren't funded
They
until
weren't
the following
funded,
year.
so-
Charter,
Until the following year.
it's a new charter, as you said.
The new charter is required, but it's,
Do it.
all right, so let me, so we're back on the A fund.
I thought it looked pretty good.
I think it's pretty good. I have no problem with it.
Try to keep his numbers the same.
No, and like I said, I looked at the current year spending to date. I don't think he made any unreasonable cuts.
What's next, Roy?
59.
The D fund on 59.
We always have that discussion about hourly employees. All right, seems to be a annual debate.
Mhm.
You still in the A fund?
We're still in the A fund. We're back on the buildings like 1620. The 149 item, the hourly, you know, the thing is, we usually end up having that discussion on those hourly employees.
Yeah.
And so the thing was, you know, I see that the difference between 14 and $13,000. I mean, it's, so we shouldn't have that, there shouldn't be that same debate. The amount of money is the same, so I'm not sure why we would debate it come the future.
Yeah, I mean, it gets confusing because most county budgets list each position individually and there's a total dollar amount. My budget, all the hourlies get lumped together because of the way it gets broke down, and I don't really have a slide where everybody can see it, but basically I account for all the people and it gets broken among the various, like in the A fund, there's 3 different labor lines, A1620, A7180, and A8160. Well, A8160 is $16,000, that's not a full person. And that's why we break it down the way we do.
It's a refuge.
And we also, there's 8 people that work in the DM fund, and that's why it isn't as straightforward as some of the other budgets.
I believe the sheet he's talking about is in the backup book, it's on page 88. It breaks down the,
Oh, it's included in
included
the,
in the backup.
Yeah, if you
the
submitted it,
backup
it's
book.
probably in the backup.
And it does calculate each of the hourly lines for you.
Yeah, so, but you haven't made any major change in it.
I did
So,
not add any people or delete any people from 13 to 14.
okay.
Are we on the road front?
If everybody's done with the A,
Are you?
No, are we on the road front now, or we still on the?
No, I just, if we don't have any issues with, you know, like the bike path and mail, then, you know, I'd like to get to the refuse and garbage only as a topic,
okay?
all right? When and I'm not sure that you would remember, but if in the event that we were to be responsible for refuse and garbage. I mean, I understand that this is only a small portion, this only has to do with the buildings. And
Building numbers.
I'm thinking on a grander scale,
Yeah.
that the breakup of MOSA,
Yep.
then do you remember how it was handled
When it was under DPW.
when it was under DPW?
Yeah, but pretty much that section of the budget, 8160, is where, when we ran the landfills and the transfer stations, it would have appeared under 8160. It would have just been a much larger, there would have been a lot more lines to it than currently shown. I've been, based on the recent discussions and the resolutions that have passed, and I spent the last 2 or 3 days starting to work on a draft budget as if we were going to run the transfer stations. I don't have it complete enough where I can bring it in here and say, we can do it for this. I still have some questions, because basically all the information that I've gotten from MOSA so far, I've gotten off their website. So I have some specific questions that I'll need to ask Dennis to answer some questions that I have in my mind on the numbers that appear on their sheets on their website. But
Yeah, I'm having discussions on should it be included as part of the general fund? Should it be included as a separate entity? And there are logical reasons why it wouldn't be in the A fund, and it would be on a standalone. Because basically you really want to capture all the costs. One of the reasons would be you'd want to capture all of the costs so that you could create a rate.
Exactly.
It would be pretty difficult if we have it as part of the A fund in isolating the equipment. Because you would want the tipping fees to be paid for by, I would assume, the users, or the costs of the operation by the users. All right, so it's good that you're putting together. The question gets to be is where we would end up sticking it eventually, and so there's different schools of thought on where it should be. But as I've been. The question is, why would you want to include, I think the statement was made to me, is why would you want to include it in the A fund and muddy everything up over the running the operations of it?
no, I understand that. I'm just,
Because you're going to have equipment.
I'm not sure everybody understands our work order system, and that in the end, we would be able to track every dollar, every hour of equipment, every person, every purchase, would be separate from buildings, from 1671 or.
Oh, I'm thinking benefits, a whole host of things.
Yep.
And the thing was, when it comes down to the replacement of equipment, that I think it's better suited if it's separate. That equipment is separate from your highway equipment and other equipment because it has a different function.
Mhm.
But the other thing is the logistics of running a department. I mean, Sean is going to have to be involved because we're going to be into, let's say on May 1, you're going to be open for business, and you're going to have the towns coming in, villages coming in, you're going to have billing going in, you're going to have receivables coming in and out. I mean, the logistics of running it I think are greater than in Sean's current department and greater than your department.
Well, we've had that discussion, and that's partly what I've been working on when I'm preparing the budget that I've been working on to run the transfer stations. Is adding people, because that's one of the biggest questions I have for Dennis is their current software. What is it? How do they maintain it? How is it transmitted from the transfer stations to the main office? Is it done? Because that's where all the information is going to be as far as who gets billed for what, who brings in their trash, how many tons, all those things. That's going to be a very important piece of the puzzle, is the software and how it's currently tracked, and the billing and all that. How is that currently?
Well, the logistics of running a whole new department, you know, are gonna affect you, gonna affect the treasurer's office, you know, and the thing was, it can't be done, you know, on April 30th, you know,
No,
when
no.
most of it dissolves.
No.
And so.
No, that's why I've started looking at, only because there's still a few options out there that you folks are gonna actually have to decide which way it's gonna go in the end.
But there's 2 points of view. One, do you privatize, or one, do you operate? The second one is, do you ship one way, or do you ship somewhere else? I mean, that's a line item, where you ship one way or the other. You know what I mean? Whether you privatize or not, that's a whole different discussion. All right? So I think that, you know, you're probably doing the right thing by preparing. All right? So, having said that, so at least you're on it. So having said that, any more questions on the A fund? And if not, we'll go to the D fund.
I have a question. I see up here in your consolidated highway aid, you modified the budget to 2478, and that's 2442. Is there a basic formula?
The 2478 included some rollover funds from the prior year. The 242216 reflects what we actually received for 13. And so and when the state funded it last year, they funded it for 2 years at the same level.
Okay. All right, so that's written in stone.
Yeah, the only thing that may happen is funds that I don't expend this year will have to be rolled into next year, and that's normally done by resolution in the subsequent year. I will say the only cut that Sean made that I see having any consequence is the striping, the road striping.
Yes, sir.
And the only reason I say that is because based on our bids for 13, I'm kind of doing some scrambling to pay for the striping this year. I'm having to pay for some CHIPS money, CHIPS projects and things like that. So based on our current bids, I'm not sure the 75,000, I would have to look at not striping some roads next year, whether it's edge line striping or, I mean, that would be the first place I would look at cutting, would be edge line striping someplace.
I see prep work out in the county. I mean, obviously I see some of it in the town of St. John's.
Yeah.
Is that work that was scheduled to be done this year, or is that prep work that is scheduled to be done for final work to be done next year?
It's everything you're seeing this year were roads that were scheduled to be resurfaced this year. The thing to keep in mind is we're about 7 weeks behind schedule because of the flooding in the town of Florida early in the year, and then the flooding in mid-county at the end of June. We lost 7 weeks. I pulled everybody off road projects for about 7 weeks. And the worst part about being in upstate New York is you don't generally get those 7 weeks back. Right now, I would say Wagner's Hollow Road, Nellis Road, Crum Creek Road are ready to be paved and have been. I'm kind of waiting on the paving contractor for their schedule. And if it drags on too much longer, I may just wait till next year, till spring. But I would really like to get them done this year. Especially Crum Creek. Crum Creek is pretty rough. I'd like to get that. If the weather holds, I'd like to get that one done.
Yes, Michael?
Oh, sorry, you were talking.
Herb?
Or did it? Basement was up next.
You know that the problem that I have is on 5142. I know they put it in his budget, which is the, what is it, 5250 a mile, snow contracts.
Yeah.
My question is, and I could be out in Netherlands somewhere, but wasn't there supposed to have been a study through the planning department of some way of figuring this out and changing some of the roads?
The county did receive a grant, like I think almost every other county in the state received grants for a, not sure, consolidated highway study, if that's the right term,
It's a good term.
but for a highway, we'll call it a highway study, and not put consolidated in there. I do know the study was completed, and,
It's online, isn't it?
yeah, and I'm just trying to, remember what his recommendations were, but very, very little change from what we
Yeah.
currently.
It's like old news today.
Right, I mean,
Somebody made a lot of money.
it's the same discussion we've had in this room for 20 years.
So you're saying basically that we're still the way we are, we'll be operating like this for some time to come?
Based on his study. Yes.
I think probably based on the scope of the study.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's,
He did come up with a couple of suggestions, like maybe the village of St. Johnsville and the town of St. Johnsville being so close that they could, you know, consolidate, because there wasn't a number of miles of roads there. They also did say
All right.
Come on.
Get an education here.
that you might want to have all the roads go to the county and have outposts. So you'd have to read the study yourself, but there wasn't much.
The
figures
study
in
was
there.
presented, right, the study was presented to the board here.
Yeah.
The board had their hands on it.
yeah.
I forgot
It
what,
is
I
online.
forgot what,
I hate online.
if it was just given to us or if we acted on it or didn't act on it. But we had it here in chambers.
So I'm pretty sure you accepted the report.
I probably accepted the report. Yeah. And it's sitting on the shelf along with others.
Yeah, for 10 years or others, okay. You know, I don't agree with it, but I'm in the minority.
Well, it's one of those things I would really like, and I would probably take somebody at the state level, but like I said, I think every county in the state received one of those grants.
Well, I was talking about, like I brought up the other night, how do you derive this number? Why couldn't it be 5248? I mean, I'm not being cute, but where's the number? When I'm doing it, when I sit down with a math test, I have a reason that I'm doing the numbers. Where do these numbers originate from? Are they arbitrary and capricious, or what is the purpose of the number? It does amount to a lot of money on the taxes. You know, I know that I'm in the acute minority here, but I think I have a right to ask that question. When you put your budget together, any budget, and you put a number down here, you have a backup. And
Yeah.
these numbers originate, a few years ago, I can remember I was just in the audience here, I believe it was in the $3,000, I know things change, but where do these numbers come from?
That was quite
And
a
a lot of things
quite a
in
few.
the county, where do these numbers come from?
But
Where do
it's
they
really-
exist?
It's beyond him though, Mike.
No, I know, I'm just
Because
bringing
we
it up
make the
as a point.
decision here.
I know that, I'm bringing up a point.
Yeah, basically,
It happens to be in his budget, and I brought it up the other night. It's nothing to do with him, I know they stick it in his budget. That seems to be convenient.
Right, just, I guess, the easy answer to your question is that number came from a resolution passed by the board of
Right,
supervisors.
and my question to them continually has been, show me where that number came from, besides that we just put it there. Okay, that's my opinion, and it will continue to be my opinion.
I think you may see some change with the new legislative board because now you won't have the towns, that representation of the town, at the town level here.
I'm not trying to make it a city.
We know what our bills are. These guys that are sitting here next year won't. unless they're talking to the local supervisors.
That's something that may or may not be brought up, but as long as I'm sitting here another few months, I feel the necessity of.
Okay, is there any major roads that you're looking at in 2014 or bridges in 2014 or?
Well, any bridges I'm looking at will be in the capital, will be in my capital request in normally February is when I approach my capital program. And that's when I'll bring up the boiler and maybe the zero-turn mower will reappear and the,
Calling it zero turn.
Zero turn. Turns on a dime.
Yeah, just to be sure that TV.
and the bridges would be included, and at that point, I would include, what is it? I think in 2007 or something, I developed a 12-year road program that was funded for, I think, 3 years.
You don't know now then what the cost of bridges would be when you come up.
I would say they're going to be very close. I think the 2 bridges we bonded for this year were pretty close to $2 million as a round number.
1.6 and change.
1.6, so.
Is there any other deficient bridges?
And get flagged.
I've got a number of safety flags and yellow flags. I don't have any structural flags, any red flags. And when you say deficient, that's
Yeah, I know.
I've got a bunch of deficient, classified as deficient, doesn't mean they're getting ready to fall apart. But normally what I've been doing is, because the inspections are done every 2 years, and every odd year is an inspection year. So all of our bridges will be inspected in 13. So between December and February of 13, I'll go through the new inspection reports, compare the numbers to the prior years, and see if my priorities have changed because one bridge has deteriorated at a faster rate than another. But I think pretty much the 2 bridges that we bonded this year, there were 2 other bridges that were with it in 2008 or 9, whenever the 3-year moratorium was put on bonding. And I would look at those bridges first. I want to say it was McEwen and maybe McPhail and the town of Canajoharie, because I know McPhail, the parapets are falling right off of it. It's the concrete's in it.
Okay, Michael?
Not Southfield. Southfield. Yeah, Southfield.
Do you have a list of bridges which you're responsible for?
Yep.
Is it available?
Yep.
Okay, can you have it, can you send it to Cheryl or something? Let me see that for us.
Okay, any more questions on the road fund? If not, we'll go to the road machinery fund.
Thought he did a good job, Chair. I mean, in the past years, we've
Basically,
argued and fought, beat each other to death over this, but I think he's really doing his best to try to hold the line.
I think he did a heck of a job, not much marked in any case.
Yeah, I understand the fiscal circumstances we're operating.
Excuse me.
Let's see, the DM fund, page 62. He cut off some chainsaws, and computers are going on sale this year. He got a better price than I did. There aren't any cuts that he made to the DM fund that were substantial that's going to impact the operations in any way.
Okay, let me go back to the road fund a minute. So the increase in the road fund is about $400,000, and so are the revenues.
Chips money, right?
It's got to be
It's
the
all
chips.
chips money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there really is no net difference between 14 and 13, even though if somebody sees, they have to look at the revenue side also. Okay. All right, anybody else got any more questions for him?
I think you did a very good job.
How many computers do you have?
How many
Is
computers
that
do
your
we have
office?
now?
Is that in your office, or is that off?
Off the top of my head, around number 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, 13 computers total.
Downstairs, there's at least, I think, 6 or 7.
Yeah, roughly 15 computers.
How many are on XP? Do you know?
I know it's
Because
been,
next April, that you won't be able to get any updates for XP.
yeah, and I know it's been 4 years since we've updated any of the computers. Actually, the one in the sign shop has been 8 years. Yeah, it's been 8 or 9 years. It gets forgotten about back there.
I like XP better than I like Windows.
So do I.
Better than Windows
I
7
do too.
or 8.
You know, I mean, some of these computers aren't able to handle new software,
Okay.
so. Something to look into, like Dan and I talked about.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's what I would rely on Dan. But anytime I put computers or buy computers, I would
He's
go
he's
through
got
Dan.
some servers, he said they're still on
Right.
Windows 2000, and they're not being updated for anything or viruses.
He knows what he's talking about.
It's just that $200 cut, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
Did you ever check the state? Sometimes departments just update, do they give computers away?
yeah, I had Peshin today doing some training, and I know they got some new software, and everybody's struggling with the software.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Diane, get the